Investigators say they know who killed Mike. Criminal charges were filed about 6 years ago, but this case has never gone to trial. Tonight, Mike Darby's family is speaking out about the cracks they see in the justice system. And I know you were saying it's hard sometimes to come out here.
Honestly, I think this is probably like my 4th or 5th time coming here.
Allison Boddicker feels her father's presence at his grave and when the wind blows. Like the rest of her family, she tries to focus on the good memories. Her dad, Mike Darby, owned a restaurant called Coach's. He started a charity bike ride with his friends. Mike was a grandpa full of life. The grandkids were in elementary and preschool when he was murdered. 3 of them are now learning to drive.
In and out of court, hearing after hearing, with lots of delays and lots of continuances, and they're aware of that.
It's been 7 years since Mike Darby was murdered along the Indian Creek Trail. It twists and turns throughout the city. Nature blends with the hum of traffic. Investigators say this was a pathway for a predator, and Mike Darby wasn't the only victim. Investigators called it the KC Trail Area Homicides, as middle-aged white men on and near trails were killed. Investigators eventually solved the string of murders with DNA and surveillance video. Prosecutors say Fredrick Scott committed 6 murders. Court documents say Scott admitted he dragged one body off the trail to hide it, and that he reported the murder weapons as stolen to distance himself from the crimes. Scott had no connection to the victims. They were all strangers he followed, mostly along the trail. Scott reportedly said under his breath during an interrogation, they didn't see it coming. Did you ever think the legal process would drag on this long?
Never in a million years.
Allison and her siblings describe a legal purgatory.
The case just sat stagnant for years because people didn't do what they were supposed to do.
There's anger, even guilt.
It's weird because you feel like, it sounds weird. If the situation was reversed, if it was me that this happened to, I feel like my dad would have gotten the process done by now.
The case has passed from one public defender to the next 4 times, so the case essentially starts over. Trial dates have been set, then postponed 6 times in 6 years. A big question before the court, competency to stand trial. At times, Scott refuses to take his medication. He's been found both competent and incompetent at different times. It's a question still lingering before the court.
He took his last breath 7 years ago because this guy snuck up behind him and shot him in the back of the head, but yet he's got all the rights. We have very little rights, and nobody's even moving that trial down the road.
Mike's siblings hope they live to see the trial.
And 7 years is too long. And realistically, we're not going to have a trial this year.
No.
We'll be lucky if we have one next year.
True. Maybe if you look at who you've elected down there, they're not doing the job.
Mike's siblings point to serial killers charged and then convicted. David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, it took 271 days. Jeffrey Dahmer's case was 210 days to conviction. Dennis Rader, or BTK, 122 days. And then there's Fredrick Scott. It's beyond 2,000 days with no end date in sight.
All the other families are feeling the same thing we are, and we just want justice, and we want it now. We've endured this way too long.
You tell me why it's not a hate crime or even a serial killer. I think he falls into both categories.
They point out all victims were white. They also point to the defendant's past. In 2014, Scott threatened to shoot up a school Columbine style. He also said he wanted to, quote, kill myself and kill all white people.
The Jackson County system is failing us, and they're not looking out for us. And in a strange, sick way, they're not looking out for the defendant either.
Mike's children feel their dad's case highlights everything broken in Jackson County, which is why they are going public, saying it's not just about Mike, it's about all the families waiting for justice in this case. It's about all of the victims in Jackson County.
This should never happen again. There should never be 7+ years where families sit around and wait for their day in court and try to do what we're doing.
We reached out to the presiding judge, the prosecutor's office, and the public defender's office. We received no comment. While we were reporting on this case, Scott's most recent hearing was moved from April to June. Angie Riccono, KCTV5 News.